Greetings fellow Flagcaps and welcome to the Spectrum. Before we get into today's video, let's talk about a little thing called sequel syndrome. Sequel syndrome is a term used to describe what happens when a piece of media declines in quality as it grows, mainly motivated by the studios trying to milk it for profit. Symptoms of sequel syndrome consist of a decline in writing quality, reboots no one asked for, important or loved characters being killed off in an unsatisfying way, relevant characters being absent, drastic and unsuitable changes to characters, couples separated off screen, heroes being sent back to square one, overriding a happy ending, and seeing as how it's 2021, being woke. And unfortunately, Obscure is no stranger to this. The first game did decent in its reception and was a pretty solid game, and then when they went to make the sequel, they took some stuff that went good in the first game, removed it, replaced it with some stuff, took the good stuff, threw it to the floor and curb stomped it to the ground, and then just what you got left wasn't quite as good. Obscure 2, or Obscure the Aftermath in the US, takes place 2 years after the first game. Once again, the story focuses on a group of students including some familiar faces. Only this time, instead of looking for a lost friend, old enemies begin reappearing on campus and the students need to fight for their survival. While it may sound similar in tone, there are some noticeable differences within it, with a less Resident Evil feel and a sprinkling of Silent Hill with a handful of mid-2000s teen horror film.
By the way, you'd better take care of my blonde girl, okay?
The title screen alone portrays that it's trying to take a new direction in its franchise. But in the words of Bonnie McFarlane, change is only good if it's for the better. Are these changes better? Not quite. Starting a new game, play the intro sequence. Stan gives a brief recap on the first game's events, but only gives his side of the story of what happened after. Traumatized by the event, he ended up in prison and did his time. Now he wants to move on. And then 2007 kicks in. Meet our first two playable characters, Corey and May, about to meet with friends for drinks before heading to a party. Having played this almost immediately after the first, it instantly felt different. It starts off with fixed cameras, but leaving the room shows that you get a third-person camera now. Fancy. And not only, but also, these cameras can change on the fly. When it comes to the controls, again, you have to rely on gamer instinct to get a grip with the controls, but this time more than ever. Assuming you're playing on an Xbox pad on a PC like I am, the left stick moves, the right stick moves the camera, right trigger changes character, left trigger opens up your inventory, and A interacts. The rest of the controls are introduced as you play through the intro. Well, I say that. Only a few of the mechanics and buttons are actually taught to you. The text boxes make a return, but it takes a while before they appear, by which time you've got a good grasp on the controls anyway. Let's have a look and see how long it takes to find the first one. Arriving at the drinking session, you meet the other playable characters, only one introduced by name. Sven, Amy and June.
Hey neighbors.
Hey! Kenny, what are you doing? Come over here now.
See y'all at the party.
And returning characters Kenny and Shannon. Sven says that everybody's been making a tea out of a flower that's been growing all over campus, so it's time they tried it. Corey huffs and puffs and finds himself and May not in Kansas anymore. Here you gain access to your first weapon, the trusty bat. Melee combat has had an improvement. Left bumper readies the weapon and lets you lock onto the nearest target, and right bumper swings. And with a full 360 camera, it lets you observe your surroundings. One of the improvements now is that instead of swinging once, you can swing multiple times. From the equipment page, you can assign and hold up to 4 weapons at once so you can switch on the fly with the D-pad. In case you're wondering, yes, you still get to indulge in vandalism with a purpose and abuse your teammate. You can also pick up one-time improv weapons if you're really desperate or just mad at your partner. Smashing your way through the graveyard, you encounter a monster dragging someone into a cellar. Given our history with them, this shouldn't be an issue. This is where you'll notice the slight change in the horror element. The creepy monster aspect has gotten a bit more grotesque in its presentation, but at times there'll also be Silent Hill-like psychological horror too, though not much. Walking down the corridor, Corey and May see some disturbing sights. May's sister June crawling out of the darkness as she drags her mangled body along the wall, a zombie Sven cursing out Corey, and Amy lying dead on a flower with her body ripped open. Suddenly, you're attacked by some familiar looking friends. Not to worry though, because you've got a gun. Gun combat has also benefited from changes. It has the lock-on feature too, and this time features a reload button. On the other hand, not all the changes made have been good. The lock-on system is fiddly. To change your target, you need to swing the stick in the direction of what you want to shoot. But it doesn't always work, so shooting the wrong target while the one you wanted to hit comes up and bites you is a common occurrence. The ability to brighten up your torch has vanished, so you're unable to keep them at a distance now. And when you play in co-op, the camera stays in third person, so the lock-on is less effective. You can still see the lock-on dot if you're in the right position, but at times you won't see what it is you're attacking until it's on camera, usually within striking you distance. The enemies are immortal in this fight, but last until May gets her head bitten off, only to find out it was just a drug-fueled dream. The best kind. Now you're back in the shithole of reality, you need to go and find May to make sure she's okay before going to the party. God, I'm so white. Stumbling your way through the halls with a nauseating motion blur, Corey finds a health item, an energy drink. Not only does it restore your health, the music implies that it also gives you a metric shit ton of confidence.
Oh, that's much better. That's much better.
In fact, so confident you're willing to risk your life to go and see your girlfriend. Another change made to the game is that the characters, sort of, don't have individual skills anymore. Instead, they fall under categories, each having a skill set. You can check which character fits under what category in the status screen. Some of the characters share the same skill sets, while others will have ones unique to them. At this point, you will be slowly taught, still no tutorial boxes, how these skills work. When you can use one of your skills, you'll get a prompt. Corey, as an acrobat, can engage in hardcore parkour and risk breaking his legs to potentially get laid tonight. He finds May passed out in her room and they head to the party. Amy and Kenny arrive at the actual party, then try to get in but are told to get fucked by the doorman. Well, that's a disappointment. I guess we go home and study to make a better future for ourselves. Or plan B, we trespass. Sneaking around the back, we find a hockey stick and a big crate. As a strength character, Kenny and Sven can freely move heavy objects around. In this case, you need to move the crate to the log storage, and then climb on top and sneak in through a window. As you're sneaking in, the flowers that Sven mentioned before open up and infect the students at the party. This party also looks like that one scene from Home Alone. Cutting back to Kenny and Amy, you can hear the panic screams and a ruckus. In this room, you get to use Amy's decrypting skill set. With this, she can find information or clues in complete messes or after solving a puzzle and store them in the clues page. Leaving the room, a student runs out with the best voice acting ever.
I'm hurt and they've killed my boyfriend. It will soon be your turn. Take the gun in the billiards room.
Okay, but I'm only going for the promise of a gun, not to save you. You are a wounded extra who's just been hurt by the monsters. By horror logic, you're gonna die soon. To get into the billiard room, we have to... still fun. In the room is the safe holding the gun and your very first save point. Using the code Amy deciphers from the desk scratchings opens the safe. Why is there a gun on campus? Those billiard games must get super serious. The stranger question, however, is in relation to the save points. Dear viewer, answer this question for me. Say you're face to face with one of these flowers. We know that they turn you into monsters, give you scary highs, and are very capable of infecting you. Do you A, stay away from the flower as far as you can, B, try and protect yourself from inhaling the fuels of the flower, or C, burn it, or destroy the flower in some fashion? If you answered any of these, you're still wrong, but smarter than the people in the game. To save the game, you need to touch it. Oh, that looks healthy. After caressing the face of death and recovering the gun, you go back outside to... Oh, she's not coping well. Killing her drops a key and... Hey, there it is! Just over 16 minutes into the game and we get our first tutorial message, telling how the quick inventory works. Not the fighting, not the equipment management, not the special skills, how this works. Now that the monsters are spawning in, it's time for your survival instincts to kick in and kill or run from anything that's in your way. What's that noise? That's not irritating at all. Oh, it's a heart. Gross. Our goal now is just to get the fuck out of the building. A wall of monsters is going to stand between us and safety, and to knock it down, we're going to need weapons. The number of weapons is, I would guess, similar to the amount you would find in the first game, but they're not presented in the same way. The melee weapons now feature several appearances, and while different in shape and size this time, they all still feel the same to use. Guns, on the other hand, have reduced in their variety. Finding a gun means there's only one of that type, no duplicates at all. Now, I have played and finished this game before, and if I remember correctly, there are 3 types of gun. Pistols, shotguns, and an SMG. Now, that might not sound like a lot of weapons, but there is a 3rd type of weapon. The special weapon. In order to get these weapons, you need to open up these out-of-place looking boxes. To do so, you need to collect 3 small keys hidden around the area you're currently in. But some of the special weapons can be found lying around. The special weapons have unique properties to them and can be extremely powerful. In my time playing, I found the stun gun, or as I like to call it, the handheld Palpatine. Very handy as it can stun enemies while your partner beats them to death. The crossbow, which fires explosive bolts, and the ever-fateful chainsaw.
It's an electric chainsaw. It works on batteries.
Yeah, like a cell phone.
Right, but don't confuse them, okay?
The special weapons come at a cost. Anything that uses ammo can't be used often as it's rare to find the ammo in the first place. Anything that uses a battery drains a blue bar shared between all the characters. The plus side is that you can recharge the bar at charging stations you find. Entering the foyer, you have 2 directions you can go. To the library, where you can move trophy cabinets around, or to what was the party room. Going this way will lead you to the kitchen. In it, Amy can solve a puzzle to create the answer for the trophy case puzzle. Taking the newly revealed path, you meet a man hanging around by himself in a private library and totally not giving off villain vibes. Before you can address him, you're attacked by a monster. Somebody is hurt, and cut to Corey and May. They arrive at the aftermath of the slaughter. The final skill set you're going to learn here, but not the final one to learn at all, is May's hacking. May can use her handy pocket computer to hack into things with a word puzzle. Oh joy. The game gives you a clue as to what the password could be. It's always the name of a famous person, which is a bit misleading because historical would be a more accurate term. A donut of letters will appear and you need to enter the name hidden inside. This one I was able to get straight away as it's Mozart, but hark, I hear you ask, Zach, what if we are a dumbass like you and we can't figure it out? First off, there are no dumbasses like me. I'm holding on to that title. Second, there's no need to worry as the game has a system to help. If you do get the answer wrong, the game will tell you how correct you are. A green letter means that the letter is correct and in the right place. Yellow means correct but in the wrong place, and red is not used at all. Breaking your way in, you're then trapped in by a black fog that covers the door. Attempting to follow after Kenny and Amy, you discover the library has been trashed. No problem as Corey can climb his way up and pull May. Oh, squid face. Kill it! We having calamari tonight. Kenny and Amy aren't where we last saw them, so you need to go further into the... Oh, spider, kill it! Oh, I'm glad that's over. Oh, spider, kill it! Phew, I'm glad that's... Spider, kill it. Glad that's... This is going to take a while. Let's come back later. You catch up to your friends, safe and sound, as well as the professor. elbow deep in the corpse of a monster. He introduces himself as Richard James. James confirms that the monsters you're fighting were at one point human, and Corey recognises a tattoo on one of the monsters, confirming it was also a student. Worry forms among the team, and they suspect the flower they snorted has infected all of them. May theorises that the energy drink her and Corey had was able to fight off the infection. James says he will conduct some experiments and informs us that we can escape through the dance hall. Before leaving, he hands you a syringe, introducing you to one of the grimmer actions you can take for survival. The beating hearts aren't just there to be noisy. Using the syringe, you can extract fluid from them, and when you collect enough, you get a vial of something that you can use to restore your health. It can be a real lifesaver, as medkits and energy drinks are uncommon at the very least. Now's also a good time to mention the voice acting. It's taken a nosedive since the last game. The performances aren't bad per se, but it does feel like lines are being read rather than acted. And there are times where it feels like context wasn't given to the actors. Here's an example. When you find Amy and Kenny as Corey and May, it sounds like they've met up after a long time of not seeing each other, rather than worried about their safety.
Amy! May! How are you? Are you okay?
We've been worse. You haven't seen Sven and June, have you?
At other times, there's odd wording.
Go on. Work. Just once.
And Sven is supposed to be Norwegian, but sounds more like a surfer.
Hey dude, good news. June's car is still here. As soon as we get the keys, I'll bring the twins back, I promise.
The graphics have also taken a downgrade. The models from the first game weren't groundbreaking, but they looked pretty decent. Now they look like cheap plastic counterfeit toys. They still have a stiff-ish movement to them in the cutscenes, and at times look scarier than the monsters. The weird part is that when you're playing as them, they look much better. Another thing to mention here is that reminiscent of the first game, you get to choose what characters you want to take with you to the next area, but it's completely pointless. In the next area, you need to solve a puzzle that involves climbing and pulling, meaning that May and Amy are completely worthless here, and you need to take Corey and Kenny. Why give us the choice if it doesn't matter?
What's the fucking point?
This isn't a one-time thing either. Later on in the game, you get to choose your team again, but you need May and Amy on the team. In case you're wondering, no, there aren't secret or optional sections you can visit if you take the wrong characters. Choose the correct team or backtrack are your options. With that being the case, what happens when someone dies? Do you lose them and can't complete the game? Nope. If any of your characters die, it's game over. Unless it's a scripted death.
Quick, get out of here!
That's right, the game can and will take away playable characters from you. Not because of choices you've made, but because the story is a straight line with only one ending, unlike the other game. Meaning there's nothing you can do to get a golden or best ending. With what felt like a tutorial complete, you solve a two-person puzzle and meet up with Sven, who's only just arrived. Someone steals Corey's car and attempts to run Sven over, and more attention is given to the car than their friend.
Freaking car!
Hey!
You'll never catch
My
it!
car's not far from here! Come back, you retard!
Does anyone even still say that anymore? I think we could also say that bad writing is in play with this game too. The characters are pretty dull, hardly relatable, and kind of annoying. I often found myself questioning why they hang out. It's like watching a cheap teen horror B-movie. The new characters are your average drug-taking, party-hard American Pie characters, and the returning characters have in a sense devolved. Amy flips from being a horny dumb blonde to a tease in an instant.
I hope we'll be some cute guys there.
Right. What about me then?
You're not a guy, Kenny. You're a friend.
No comment.
Corey is an irritable twat that gets angry when people disrespect his car. May is a short-tempered geek but doesn't call herself one because she's attractive. And as a couple, they're always arguing.
Why do we always have to go by car? We could have walked. And it wasn't even that far.
I just don't get your infatuation with that thing.
That car's priceless, and you know it. I spent so much money on that thing, it's...
Well, they seem to have had a good time.
As a group, they bicker more than they support each other, and often everyone has conversations that don't fit the situation. Gone to grab a gun because killer monsters are nearby? Better make a sex innuendo.
So I won't be shooting my load tonight then, huh?
You just save your ammunition for later.
As for the returning cast, Kenny's become a horny fuckboy and Shannon a cold, unsympathetic goth bitch.
I like to see you work out.
Yeah, does it make you all hot and sweaty for me? I could use the exercise.
Don't worry, I'm sure someone will take pity on you inside.
You've always been the stronger one, and I just can't take it anymore.
Then you're going to die, little brother. Grow up and save your life, please.
Really, the only two player characters I did like was Sven and Stan. Sven because he comes across as friendly while giving some banter, and Stan because with what little time he had on camera so far, has shown development. He's distant from Kenny and Shannon now, he went to prison and is trying to start a new better life after a traumatic event. After Sven, who's fine by the way, narrowly evades death, the group ends up splitting. Corey and Amy go after the car. May gets a distress call from her sister and drags Sven to go and save her, while Kenny says he needs medicine and runs off to the hospital. Rather than be given a choice, the game puts you in control of Corey and Amy.
He's gonna pay me for it. Nobody touches my wheels.
Jeez Louise, it's only a car.
It's not just a car! Silly as it might sound, it is wise to go after the car as Corey kept a shotgun in his trunk. Is it really this easy for a student to get a gun and keep it on campus? At first, this was a pretty creepy scene to be in. Trudging through the woods in the dead of night as monsters emerged from the darkness and the eerie music made you feel uneasy. Until Corey ruined the mood by whinging about his car while shooting monsters.
This jerk knocked down the crash barrier. He must have ruined my car.
As well as the music randomly cutting out at points. Hey, there's the shotgun. I really hope it's not going to trigger an ambush. Oh no, who could have seen this coming? Other than improving your arsenal, there's only 2 moments you need to be aware of in this part of the game. While travelling to the hospital, they see a creature wandering around like every hillbilly horror monster ever. You don't have to fight him, but instead you fight a new kind of monster which, for reasons you will soon see, I'm going to call the Ahayao. There has been a fair amount of enemy variety so far. Once again, I shall be looking at the wiki to get the names. Spider bites, quick buggers that like to hug your face, and the returning monster Arbaltribol, musclehead powerhouses, are first seen in the drug dream. Amorphous, slow bullet sponges, and runners, fast glass cannons, appear at the house party, and the harpies first appear in the woods. But I call them the Ahayao because... these things harass you all the way to the hospital. The worst part is where you have to parkour your way in and they start attacking you. Oh, now you attack them? Yeah, thanks for that, Amy, you stupid fucking skank! When you do make it in, a conveniently placed plot device has May calling out for help.
I'm at the hospital with Amy. My car... it's dead.
Priorities, Corey. Corey and Amy decide to take a breather. Meanwhile, Kenny is searching frantically for his meds. He gives up looking and tries to call Stan, who ignores the call. Okay, look, this needs to be asked. It's 2007. Why is nobody using a mobile phone? Are you just trying to avoid a phone bill so you can spend more money on drugs and guns? Oh, the American dream. Shannon walks in to say she couldn't find the meds either, and cut to May and Sven. But first, I need to check something. No, still going. We'll check back later. This is one of the most stressful parts of the game for one good and one bad reason. The good? After finding your way in, you have a time limit until June dies, and you need to fight and think your way through the enemies to reach her in time, which is a nice change to the pace of the gameplay. The bad? June sounds like an irritating toddler constantly calling for help. The timer, however, is a deceptive fucker. Now, looking at it, you'd think, okay, I've got until the end of the life bar to save June. But there's a catch. When you reach June, she's in the arms of a monster. Depending on when you get there results in one of two scenarios. Reach June when her health is low and she gets killed by the monster. Reach her when her health is high and she gets thrown out of the window, somehow surviving. As much as this looks like a branching path, it's not. As I said before, the story is a straight line. Anything you do makes very little difference but does not affect the final outcome. In fact, this one, involving June, I can tell you, only affects this part of the story and nowhere else. If June does die here, then all that happens is that you miss out on one of the cooler sections of the game. After killing the monster, June radios May to say she's fine and landed in the cellar. Sven has the idea to head to the reception and use the cameras to guide June out. Now, you're in control of June and you need to find your way out of the maze, made harder by the fact you need to adjust the picture on the camera every time the angle changes. It's a neat little section and I wish there were more of this creativity in the entire game. The Sven and May section is one of the better constructed parts of the game as well. The choice of music it plays as you hastily try to navigate through the challenges ahead while saving June enunciates the tension and panic you'll experience. It's a shame the rest of the game isn't this well made. The music itself is good. It still has the unsettling choir style, but it has also increased its range and it can be unnerving, creepy and aggressive, all while sounding good.
It's just too bad. Boys, this is the main event. You wanted to smash my car! Big bastard!
The use of the music is where it's let down. As I mentioned before, the music can ungracefully cut out at times, but sometimes it's completely absent, relying on ambient sounds, and sometimes it's just deathly silent. I get what they're going for, but I feel as though they're doing it wrong. In Resident Evil, the silence works because it's how you know when a monster is somewhere in the area. Here, the silence means nothing, as monsters don't make noises when they're idle, only when they're attacking, so it's being used as a jump scare, and jump scares wear off quick. Another issue is that the music is inconsistent with its appearances. The fight music can be present in one fight, and then missing in another. The June section is no stranger to this either. Watching her through the camera? When it swaps to third person. These issues aren't game breaking, obviously, but they do take away from the experience as it feels like the game wasn't ready when they published it. Playing as June, you need to find your way out of the cellar by finding the main switch and escaping. And it's as simple as walking up to it and pressing A. We saved her. Alright, let's get out of here. June? June, what are you looking at? You daft bint! Why you just stood there? Well, that's all on you. No sympathy from me. Dropping back to Sven and May, you run down the stairs to meet June. Not looking good, as one of the first things you find is her severed, tiny arm. You do find the deceased June, and in what is supposed to be an emotional scene, I can't take seriously because 1, you just couldn't resist a boob shot, could you? And 2, something's wrong with the music. It sounds like the musician left their mobile phone on while recording and it started ringing.
Yeah? Is something wrong?
It's June. She's dead.
What? What happened? May?
Oh, June.
Answer.
I can't leave her
May,
like
please,
this.
we need to go!
June, I don't believe it.
You even made her do a sexy pose in the achievement? Was there a necrophiliac on the design team? And the mobile is still playing?
I'll end up like that.
There's shoddy, and then there's incompetent. Ooh, what a roller coaster of an hour that was. But I can't just stop without talking about the co-op, can I? As before, you can start the game with 2 players and a second player can jump in, drop out at any time. I've spoke about the camera work already and how it hinders the experience a bit. Players can still run off camera with some effort, and pressing the character swap button changes the player the camera focuses on. An improvement made to the co-op is that there are now puzzles implemented that now require 2 people to separate. An honestly welcome addition. Other than that, there's not much else to the co-op. But I still stand by my statement that I made in the first video, that horror is something better when it's shared. It's just unfortunate that there was clearly more emphasis on the single player than the co-op. So is Obscure 2 better than Obscure 1? Well, in some ways. A lot of the changes are down to opinion, like characters being killed off and the removal of the sunlight defense, but there's certainly things that it does better, and some things it does way worse. How is it as a game though? It's enjoyable. I appreciate the effort they've put in to try and separate themselves from the ResiClone label. The off voice acting, worse cutscene graphics, and mishandled music does affect the experience in a negative way, but not so much that you want to stop playing. And if you enjoyed the first one, you will enjoy this one, but I personally prefer the first one over this. There is a third game related to the Obscure series, and I am going to be looking at that, and I was hoping that I would be able to get it out before the end of October. Unfortunately, real life and health issues meant that October snuck up on me this year and I was unprepared, and the fact that you guys helped me reach 200 subs, which I'm still grateful for, means I needed to find time to record the appreciation video. I'll do better next year, I promise! So I hope you stick around to find out where this series finished. And that was Obscure 2. Thanks for watching everyone, and remember, you're always welcome at the Spectrum.